The flight hit a patch of rough air, and as the pilot, I handled it. It wasn't my first time dealing with turbulence, and my training meant I knew exactly what to do to keep the aircraft and its passengers safe. We landed without any real incident, just a few rattled nerves. But my husband, Mark, saw it indifferently. His first love, Chloe, had been on that flight. She has a fear of flying, and he was convinced I had intentionally flown through the turbulence just to scare her. "How could you do that to her?" he'd yelled. "You'll pay for this." He wasn't bluffing. He had his security detail tie my hands and feet and suspend me from the wing of his private jet. He told the pilot to find every bit of turbulence he could. I tried to reason with him, to use my professional knowledge to explain how dangerous that was, not just for me, but for everyone on board. He just sneered. "Now you care about safety? Maybe you'll think twice before abusing your authority next time." The roar of the engines swallowed my pleas. I was 3 months pregnant, a fact he refused to believe, and I felt my life and the tiny life inside me drain away, leaving a crimson trail in the sky. After 2 hours, a hint of something, maybe not compassion, but something, flickered in him as he glanced at the prayer beads he always wore. "Let Alina come up," he told his assistant. "Let her eat something, then she can go back down and continue her punishment." There was no answer. I couldn't answer. The pressure at that altitude had already crushed my internal organs. "Why isn't that jealous woman shouting anymore?" Mark asked, annoyed. "Has she finally learned her lesson?" The assistant at the controls was visibly shaking. "Sir," he stammered, "maybe we should stop. She's been out there for 2 hours." Mark just scoffed. "Only 2 hours? That woman is tougher than she looks. She could hang for another 2 without a problem." The assistant wiped sweat from his forehead. "But sir, the temperature in the troposphere is below freezing. Maybe negative 40 or 50 degrees. She's not dressed for that." "Is that right?" Mark said, a flicker of doubt in his eyes as he rubbed the beads on his wrist. "I guess I didn't think of that." Just then, another wave of turbulence rocked the plane. He seemed to make up his mind. "See that patch of turbulence up ahead? That's the last one. We'll fly through that, and then we'll bring her down." The plane shuddered violently, and red emergency lights flashed through the cabin. Mark needed his bodyguards to hold him steady in his seat. From the main cabin, Chloe emerged, stretching as if waking from a nap. "Mark," she cooed, settling into his lap. "Are you scared, Chloe?" he asked, his voice full of concern. She shook her head. "As long as I'm with you, I'm not afraid of anything." He smiled and pinched her cheek. Then, she put on a show of remembering something. "Oh no! I was supposed to tell you to let Alina down as soon as I woke up. I'm so silly, I overslept. How long has it been? I hope she isn't mad at me. I should go and apologize." Apologize! The thought was so absurd I would have laughed if I could. By then, I was a ghost. My body, frozen solid and broken, dangled from the wing, a grotesque ornament. As the jet flew on, my blood, scattered by the wind, painted long red streaks across the fuselage. I wondered what Mark would think when he finally saw it. But for now, his attention was solely on Chloe. "You're not silly, Chloe," he said, his voice soft. "You're just too kind and innocent. This plane is shaking so badly that even I'm scared, yet that woman, knowing you're afraid of flying, did this on purpose. And would you believe it? She even lied and said she was pregnant, just to get me to let her off easy. She clearly values her own life. Why didn't she care about yours or anyone else's on that first flight?" The injustice of it all was a cold, sharp pain. He didn't just question my professionalism. He thought I would lie about our child. I remembered the moment they hoisted me up. I knew I wouldn't survive, so I fought. Before the plane reached its cruising altitude, I struggled against the ropes, trying to free myself. I broke my own wrists in the process, pulling and twisting until I was almost free. I was so close. But then Mark opened the window and saw me. He thought I was being defiant. His face hardened, and he turned to his pilot. "Change course," he ordered. "Go faster, find the turbulence, and fly directly into it." I watched the swirling vortex of storm clouds rush toward me, and then I closed my eyes for the last time. Now, as the plane began to descend, Mark, still holding his prayer beads, gave new instructions. "Find a grassy area to land. We'll let Alina down for a while. I'm getting hungry. Have her make dinner for everyone. If she does a good job, we'll let her eat with us. And whether she goes back out or not depends on how sincerely she apologizes to Chloe. The assistant nodded nervously. Chloe pouted. Don't be so mean to her, Mark. Alina has always been good to me. Mark sighed, looking at her with a worried expression. You're too naive, Chloe. That's how you get taken advantage of by people like her. I can't always be there to protect you. You need to learn to see who's genuine and who's just manipulating you. Chloe looked at him, her eyes wide with emotion. You're the first person who's ever said that to me, Mark. Everyone else only cares about what I can do for them, not whether I'm okay. They stared at each other for a long moment before their lips met in a passionate kiss. But just as things were getting intense, Chloe pushed him away. No, she said, her voice breathy. You're married to Alina. I can't be the other woman. Mark's eyes were dark with desire. Just wait a little longer, he rasped. I need to be free of her to deserve someone as pure as you. He kissed her forehead gently, as if she were made of glass. I saw the flash of triumph in Chloe's eyes, a look he completely missed. The irony was laughable. Not the other woman. She had been flaunting their affair for months. She made a point of taking flights I was piloting, always wrapped in Mark's coat, wearing his watch, and taking his calls on speakerphone for everyone to hear. Once, another flight attendant who knew the situation muttered a sarcastic comment, and Chloe filed a formal complaint the moment we landed. I had to lead a team to formally apologize to her, and she slapped me across the face for it. Today was just the first time she'd been on one of my flights that hit turbulence. It wasn't even that bad, but she made a scene, shouting that I was an incompetent pilot who had slept her way to her position and was going to get them all killed. The crew tried to calm her down, but she had already worked some of the other passengers into a panic. I watched it all on the cockpit monitor, my hands sweating. We landed safely and passengers came to thank the crew. Chloe, however, hid in a corner, furiously making a phone call. A few hours later, as I was accepting an award from the passengers in the lounge, Mark's bodyguards showed up and dragged me out by my hair to his private plane, where Chloe was curled in his arms, crying. He slapped me twice, so hard my head spun. Chloe is afraid of flying, he seethed. How dare you terrorize her? You don't deserve to be a captain. You barely deserve to be human. You like turbulence so much? Fine. You can have all you want. That's when they tied me to the wing. Mark, you can't do this. It will kill me. I screamed. I'm pregnant. I'm carrying your child. He just sneered. I never thought you'd make up a lie that desperate just to get out of a little punishment. I saw you go to the hospital to get an IUD myself. He wouldn't listen to another word. He just carried Chloe, who had conveniently fainted from crying, into the plane. Now, as they were tangled together, the assistant burst in. Sir, bad news. It's Alina. She's gone cold. Cold? What do you mean, cold? Mark asked, annoyed by the interruption. The assistant swallowed hard. She's not breathing, sir, and her body is frozen solid. A tremor went through Mark, but he quickly masked it with anger. She's acting, he snapped. Just watch. Alina is a top-tier pilot. She's had special high-altitude survival training. She's just faking it to get out of her punishment. Go get a heater, warm her up. Once she thaws out, she'll be fine. Then tell her to come and see me. The assistant was stunned. Sir, your wife is already... Whose orders do you follow? Mark cut him off. Am I your boss or is she? The assistant lowered his head. I'll go get the heaters. After he left, Chloe chided him gently. Mark, don't be so harsh. He was furious. Look at the assistant. He spent too much time around her. He doesn't even listen to me anymore. And Chloe, remember, even if she apologizes later, don't you dare forgive her. A woman like that deserves to be punished. My entire being, my soul, trembled. I had foolishly wondered if he would feel any remorse after I died. How wrong I was. In his mind, all the fault was mine. Mark and Chloe had been a famous couple, the kind people follow online. He was a wealthy heir, she was a rising starlet. But she'd said she wanted to study abroad and broke up with him. He spent a year flying back and forth trying to win her back until he met me on a flight. When he proposed, he said I was different, that I was his destination. He wanted me to quit my job and start a family, but I loved my career. We argued about it constantly. Then Chloe came back. Alina, you don't know how lucky you are, she'd said to me, crying. To have a child with Mark is my dream, a dream that will never come true. Seeing them together again, I asked for divorce, but he refused. In a moment of anger and hurt, I went to the hospital to get an IUD, which is when I found out I was already pregnant. The news changed everything for me. I was ready to resign, to finally give him the family he wanted. But he started pulling away. He had seen me go into the hospital that day and assumed the worst. Did that give him the right to kill me? Chloe's stomach growled, breaking the tension. Mark laughed. Silly girl, you're hungry. He turned and yelled toward the cargo hold. Why isn't that woman up here making food yet? Chloe put on a brave face. It's okay, Mark. I got used to being hungry when I was abroad. No one cared if I was okay. The pain in Mark's eyes was palpable. I'll go see what she's up to, he said, his voice thick with emotion. And when I'm done, I'll make her kneel and serve you your dinner. He strode to the cargo hold and kicked the door open. He immediately recoiled. What is that smell? The assistant and several bodyguards stood there, heads bowed, while a dozen space heaters blasted away. In the middle of them, wrapped in a blanket, was my body. Mark swore and kicked at the blanket. Get up! Chloe wants the lobster you make. The next second, he yelped in pain and pulled his foot back. Damn it, what is that? It's hard as a rock. As he kicked again, my body rolled out from under the blanket. After being frozen and then rapidly thawed, my skin had split open, revealing bone underneath. My lower body was caked in dried black blood, and my limbs were twisted at unnatural angles. My eyes, wide and bulging, stared directly at him. He stumbled backward, his back hitting the wall, and a strangled scream escaped his throat. But he recovered quickly, his expression turning to ice as he scanned the faces of his employees. How much did she pay you? He demanded. The assistant looked confused. Sir? It wasn't enough to scare Chloe, now you've all ganged up with her to scare me? You think because I'm a man of faith you can fool me with a dummy? I'm just disappointed. I treated you all so well, and you repay me by colluding with that woman. At that moment, Chloe, drawn by the noise, came to the door. Mark, what's wrong? She saw my mutilated corpse on the floor, screamed, and threw herself into his arms. He immediately softened, covering her eyes. It's okay, Chloe, don't be afraid, it's just a prank. Alina is so desperate to escape her punishment that she's using a dummy to try and fool us. And these ungrateful fools are all in on it with her. He glared at his staff. You have 5 minutes to tell me where she is. Otherwise, you'll all get a taste of what it's like to be tied to the wing of a plane. One of the bodyguards, a young man named David, finally snapped. Are you out of your mind? Your wife is dead. You tortured her to death. You'd better start thinking about what you're going to tell the police. Other bodyguards quickly tried to silence him, but it was too late. David, is it? Mark's eyes blazed. I remember your mother needs money for her treatment. Was my salary not enough for you? You had to team up with Alina? The assistant slapped David to the ground and then turned to Mark, his voice full of false sincerity. He's young and foolish, sir. Please don't mind him. Mrs. Alina must have escaped just as you said. We don't know how she did it. She's very resourceful. Mark's anger seemed to cool slightly. He led them on a search of the entire plane, looking for me. It was absurd. I was right there. What did he think he was going to find? After finding nothing, he stormed off the plane. When he saw the long, dried streaks of blood on the plane's exterior, he froze for a second before his anger returned. Playing these games with me, Alina, you've crossed a line. Don't think because I'm a man of faith I won't do something to you. He pulled the wedding ring from his finger and threw it at the bloodstain. Chloe followed him nervously. Mark, is Alina really? He pulled her into a hug. Don't be afraid, I'm here. I'll call a divorce lawyer right now. If she doesn't want to come out, she can stay hidden forever. We'll get engaged next week. I stared at the ring glinting on the tarmac. Our first meeting was on a plane, one that had an accident. I had done the same thing then as I had done on Chloe's flight, averted disaster and landed the plane safely. But the Mark from back then was different. He said he was drawn to my dedication and my respect for life. He pursued me for 3 years. I remember when his parents, who disapproved of my family's humble background, cut him off financially. He walked for 3 hours in a snowstorm just to see me. I remember him holding an umbrella over me at my father's funeral, getting soaked himself, telling me he would love me in my father's place. Everyone said I was the luckiest woman in the world, and I believed it until Chloe came back. Then it was always, Chloe needs help, or Chloe isn't feeling well. His heart was divided, and my half kept getting smaller. I had already asked for a divorce. I was willing to let them be together. Why did he have to torture me? Just because he was powerful, did that mean only he could decide when our marriage was over? I pleaded with him when they tied me up, but all I saw was coldness in his eyes. "You've always wanted a divorce, Alina," he'd said. "Fine, I'll grant your wish. But you'll pay the price for what you did to Chloe." He had turned my passions, the sky, the clouds, the sun, into the instruments of my death. My body was left in the cargo hold. For him, the most important thing was his engagement to Chloe. They announced it online, and the public response was overwhelmingly positive. "So sweet. My favorite couple is finally back together," some wrote. A few people asked, "What about Alina? When did they get divorced?" But those questions were quickly buried under a flood of well wishes and accusations that I had been the one to come between them in the first place. Mark even liked some of those comments, which only encouraged his fans to dig up more dirt on me and flood my airline's social media with complaints. It was so different from when we first got married. The online abuse against me had been terrible then, too, but he had told me to ignore it, that our happiness didn't need to be validated by strangers. Now, his favoritism was on full display. Their engagement party was a lavish affair. His parents couldn't have been happier, praising Chloe as their ideal daughter-in-law. Then, an unexpected guest arrived. My mother. She broke through the security and slapped Mark across the face. "You liar!" she screamed. "What did you promise her father? Have you forgotten everything? Where is my daughter? What have you done to her?" Tears I could no longer cry streamed down my face. "Mom, I'm so sorry," I whispered to the empty air. Mark was enraged. "Guards, get her out of here! Call the police!" I screamed and screamed, a silent, ghostly wail, wishing I could tear him apart. But I was bound to him, a spectral shadow, forced to watch as they dragged my frail mother away. Later, on the balcony, he grilled his assistant. "Have you found her yet? I need her to come out, apologize to Chloe, and make a public statement about the divorce." The assistant trembled. "Sir, we've looked everywhere. There's no trace of her." Mark slammed his hand on the railing. "She must be hiding at her mother's place, sending her here to make trouble. Does she think I'm that stupid?" After the party, Chloe tried to lead him to the bedroom, but he pushed her away. "I have work to do at the company," he said, avoiding her eyes. "We'll talk in a few days." He left her standing there, confused and angry. But he didn't go to the company. He drove to the bus stop where his guards had left my mother. I saw her huddled there, crying, dialing my number over and over. "Alina, where are you? Why won't you answer my calls?" My heart ached. Mark just watched her from his car for a long time before speeding away into the night. He drove to the tarmac, to the plane. He was finally going to face it. He walked into the cargo hold, the stench now overwhelming. "Alina, what kind of game are you playing?" he muttered, his voice shaking. "Don't let me find you, or I swear I'll really kill you this time." He kept cursing as he switched on the lights. My body was still there, now decomposed and covered in maggots. This time, he wasn't scared. He was just furious. "How could you die?" he yelled at my corpse. "I never said you could die. Come out. Stop trying to fool me with this thing." Just then, David, the bodyguard he'd had an issue with earlier, appeared at the door. "Sir, you told us to stand guard here to see if she would come back." Mark's face went pale. "Get out," he whispered. Alone again, he finally began to examine my body. His hands traced the decayed skin, the dried blood. When he touched my abdomen, he froze. He pulled out his phone. I saw what he was looking at, a web search. What happens if you tie someone to an airplane wing for 2 hours? The search results were a torrent of condemnation. That would kill someone, you idiot. Why don't you try it yourself? He scrolled through the comments, his face getting paler and paler, until he let out a choked sob. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear, I didn't know it would kill you. You know I've never been the sharpest person, Alina. And suddenly, I remembered. We were classmates in elementary school. He was slow, often bullied, and I was the only one who stood up for him, who let him copy my homework. He used to tell me he was going to marry me when we grew up. All these years later, when we met again, I thought he didn't recognize me. But he had. He knew it was me all along. Why then? Why did every act of kindness from me result in such cruelty from him? He went home and tore the house apart, looking for any trace of me. He called my mother, demanding to know where I was, only to be met with her furious curses. He called my colleagues, who told him they all thought I had already resigned, ever since I found out I was pregnant. Pregnant? Impossible, he muttered. He went to my study and found my resignation letter and the positive pregnancy test. No, he roared. He rounded up his assistants and bodyguards and stormed into the hospital in the middle of the night, demanding to see the doctor who had treated me. The doctor confirmed everything. Mark collapsed on the floor, staring at the pregnancy report. Just then, his phone rang with Chloe's special ringtone. He answered it instinctively. Mark, she cried, you have to help me. Someone is spreading rumors about me online. It's trending. He opened his phone. The wife of a famous director was accusing her husband of having multiple affairs, and Chloe's name was on the list. Her trip abroad for her studies was a lie. He listened to Chloe's tearful denials and then asked, his voice flat, "What was the real reason you went abroad?" She stammered, unable to give a straight answer. "I was tricked," she finally managed. "I'm innocent." "Innocent," he said with a hollow laugh. "You told me you were a virgin, that you had saved yourself for me. That's why I never touched you. But on the day of our engagement, I found out you'd had cosmetic surgery down there." "You call that innocent? You looked into my medical history?" she shrieked. "You have no respect for my privacy." "That's because I actually wanted to marry you," he yelled back. "Alina taught me that. Before you get married, you make sure both people are healthy." He hung up the phone. He returned home and just stood there looking at the life we had built. The furniture we'd picked out together, the gifts we'd exchanged, all the small things I had treasured. The weight of it all finally crushed him. He fell to his knees, his face in his hands, and sobbed. "What have I done? My only dream was to marry you, to have a life with you." He wept through the night. I watched him, cold and unmoved. The resentment in my heart grew stronger, so strong that I could feel my ghostly form solidify. I could create a chill in the air. A cold wind swept through the room, and he looked up, not with fear, but with a flicker of hope. "Alina, is that you? Are you really dead?" My ghostly image flickered before him. "I'm dead," I said, my voice a whisper. "You killed me." He scrambled toward me, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I was so stupid." "I have nothing to say to you," I replied. "If you want to die, go die. I only care about my mother." He trembled, then lowered his head in agony. A week later, Chloe disappeared. People assumed she was hiding from the scandal, but I knew the truth. Mark had sent her away to a place from which she would never return. He had also found out that her fear of flying was another one of her lies. He was going to turn himself in, but his parents intervened, hiring the best lawyers and planning to send him abroad. But their plan failed. David and the other staff members had already gone to the police with photos, recordings, and videos. When the police arrived at his house, however, Mark was gone. His parents thought he had escaped. But I knew where he was. He was on the plane, the one still holding my body. News came that his private jet was taking off. Everyone was shocked. He didn't know how to fly. On the plane, he fumbled with the controls, my decomposed body lying at his feet. He looked at me and smiled. a strange, peaceful look on his face. "Flying is easy," he said. "It was your favorite thing. I should learn how to do it too." The plane climbed unsteadily into the clouds, high above the sea. Then, he took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and let go of the controls. The plane plummeted toward the water and everything went silent.